You're tuned into news across the galaxy where they talk all things LA Galaxy with the Nag Boys. Let's start nagging.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is Edgar El Plátano Frito Zuniga from News Across the Diamond, joined by Bryant El Charamusca Lobos on the ones and twos. And we have a special guest all the way from the Lou. It's Philip Barbecue Brisket Grooms to preview the upcoming game between the Dodgers and the St. Louis Cardinals.
What's up, man? I like the nickname. I'll take it. I'm a big fan of barbecue. I got a smoker outside. If you want to throw down on some brisket, I'm your man.
That's what I'm talking about. Wait a minute. Is this true over here, Brian? The Dodgers aren't playing the Orioles? I mean, they're not playing the Cardinals. They're playing the Orioles instead.
Yes, sir. I think you got that wrong. So, I mean, they're both birds. They're both colorful birds. You know what? It's been a long day, and we're just trying to get into this episode. Talk some LA Galaxy. Talk some St. Louis. Talk some MLS. Take it away, guys.
Well, hey, barbecue brisket, how are you?
Doing good. I thought we were going to talk about the Cardinals today. I came with my shirt, World Series.
Me too. I mean, damn.
I have a lot of stories I was going to talk about. Cardinals players hitting Clayton Kershaw with ease. You know what I mean?
Oh God!
All kinds of
Why'd
stories.
you have to bring that up?
No.
Yeah. No, I have many horrible memories of the Cardinals just beating up on the Dodgers.
Back in the day,
choking for
Not
so
anymore.
many years. Oh my goodness. But anyway, what is up, fellow G's, and welcome to News Across the Galaxy. This is the MidWeek show. I am your host, as usual, Edgar Zuniga. Brian is still on the ones and twos. And big thanks to Phil for still hanging around after that nickname. Our good friend Matt Big Bird Baker was unavailable tonight, and he suggested his buddy Phil. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Phil. How are you doing?
Doing good. Matt's the best of us, so I apologize. I won't bring quite as many facts, but I think we'll have a good time talking about St. Louis City and LA Galaxy tonight.
Oh, thank you, man. So we already got to know our good friend Matt there, and he told us about how he got started with Flyover Footy. But can you tell us, number one, how you got into the sport, and two, how you ended up joining the podcast?
Yeah, I think I was into the national team originally, and I wasn't into soccer much growing up, but at some point I kind of I got really into baseball, right? So I actually could for real talked about baseball. I was into it when the stats got real big, like the WAR stat and all that kind of stuff. I got really into statistics and the minor league system in St. Louis. And around that time, I was getting into soccer, and I moved into the city from the county, from the suburbs. And I was into the national team, and I lived in New York for a year and came back to St. Louis. And it wasn't long after that they started St. Louis FC, which is a USL team in Division 2. And so I was like, went to a game. It was incredible. I'd never been to a soccer game, a professional game before. The environment, as we all know, is incredible if you've never seen it before. And I was in immediately because I love the national team. And I was like, great, I got real soccer environment in St. Louis, even though it's Division 2, it's still awesome. And I covered it after the first year they existed. I started following them, covering them on a podcast, and they went away for a year, and then, we got St. Louis City after that. And I was like, well, let's keep going. Let's see what happens. I brought Matt Baker in, Santiago Beltran. And it went really well. The team gave us access. Any access at all was going to be surprising. And we got lots of access. And I think Matt's quality has really kind of helped that stay, keep going. So it's just, we're so lucky that we get to cover this team. We get access to players and coaches. We get to ask questions. We get to talk about our favorite thing, man. You know how it is. It's great.
Yeah. By the way, I have to say it because it's like it's very noticeable. You're like the Midwest Zlatan here. Look at that. You got the rocking the mustache, rocking the ponytail, right?
Yeah. I like long hair. I'm a musician too. I was telling you, I'm in like a '90s cover band, so the mustache and the long hair doesn't hurt that either. But yeah, I don't mind Zlatan. I'm
There
not
you
cocky
go.
enough to be Zlatan, but maybe work my way to
It's
that.
not cockiness, man. It's confidence.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Well, um, what are your thoughts on the St. Louis City season so far? Because uh, I remember when we've spoken to Matt before, one of the things that came up was being able to replicate the success from that inaugural season and avoiding the sophomore jinx. And it seemed that things that really haven't gone the way that St. Louis would have hoped for. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah. I think, last year, speaking of being cocky, I think, after St. Louis got so many wins in the first half, going into you know, to the 3/4 point of the season, let's say, right before League's Cup started. And I think at that point, people were starting to buy in. I think every single week before League's Cup, people were like, well, St. Louis is getting their, rookie luck or whatever, first year luck. And the XG doesn't match up. We got a lot of that, right? Like they're just getting lucky with their chances and finishing them more than they should be. It's just luck. And I think by the end of the season, we started being like, it's not luck, guys. Like we found really good players. We signed a really good roster, and we have a style of play that's cohesive, and it worked, right? And looking back, if sophomore jitters or a sophomore curse is a thing, it happened, right? I mean, it's been a terrible season. It's been unsuccessful. Same coach, almost the same team. And it hasn't gone well at all. And so I think we've been doing a lot of reflecting this year. I like to overthink situations. I'm in my head a lot, right? And so I've been trying to think through this season a lot, and I wondered one thing is like, why were we so successful last year? And some part of me thinks that like there hasn't really in the West been like a Red Bull style, attack. There hasn't been a high pressing team in the West. And maybe it was more effective early on, and it took a while for Western teams to catch on. Maybe it took more than half a season for Western teams to catch on. And then after the League's Cup break, it all kind of fell apart, and it really hasn't come back since. And so, we had one of the lowest salaries in the league last year, I think second lowest. And it just went so well. We thought it would keep going. We were scared it might not. And it didn't, to the point where, we have had a new coach, an interim coach for the last 6 months. And, I think the second year there was this feeling of wanting to progress, wanting to evolve the style, right? The pressing, the craziness was working, not possessing the ball, giving it to the other team worked last year until it didn't. And a lot of what was done to counter us toward the end of the season, people started actually playing our style instead of just playing their own style. They played against our style. And so like bunkering against us worked, and it worked every single time. And so starting this season, we were like, well, we got to know what to do about that if teams decide to bunker against us every game. And so there was this idea of evolving into being able to possess the ball in the final third on top of pressing. We can't rely on getting good XG and good shots and good attempts on just turnovers in the opponent's third. So that was like the goal, and it never happened, clearly. And so I think we can kind of call it there that was the goal. It definitely didn't happen. We've switched coaches. We've brought in a lot of new players. And I think that kind of takes us to the next phase of St. Louis City.
By the way, I have to admit, it was really shocking to hear that Bradley Carnell was let go because
Dude,
when you look back at one of the bedrocks of this team, going all the way back to even before MLS, right? Because we all heard about how the team was built, right? They played that one season in USL, correct?
mm-hmm.
And
So in
trying to
MLS
build
Next
that,
Pro. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, MLS X Pro, trying to build the core of the team so that they could have something like a base on which to build once you got into MLS. And obviously, it was very successful
Hmm.
that first season, and then it's like everything came apart. And then you hear Cornell getting let go, and it was like, no way, this is somebody who you thought was going to be there for the long haul and was going to be somebody who's going to go down as like a club legend. What I mean, what led to the discussion that ended up letting him go?
I think we were just as surprised. It's so funny. I literally don't talk about the Cardinals, but you look at the Cardinals and, a lot of the success was built on quality leadership, and looking back, especially quality leadership and good player moves with a good, system. And I think we thought we had that in Bradley after that successful first year. He implemented the style perfectly, right? It wouldn't have worked that well if it wasn't, working. If what he was doing wasn't working, it would have been it wouldn't have gone so well. So it was working. And I think it was that whole evolving into the next thing. I think they gave it a try. And I think looking back, all I can say is I hope it's not going to become like a habit of, half a bad season and he's fired. I hope this is like a one-time thing that I hope they realized there were several things going on that were so bad that it was evident that something needed to happen. You know what I mean? Hopefully there's a longer leash going forward. I don't want to be that team that fires the coach every chance they get, because I do think there's success to be had outside the Cardinals, right? Like you look at, I love the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they've had that coach forever and they're not always successful, but sometimes they are, and they've held on to him and he's gotten better every year. They evolve into different things. And I just love that they've held on to him so long. And I was hoping for something like that in St. Louis. And so all we can do is kind of trust that they're making the right choice. We've seen improvement, but at the same time, we've seen a million players, tons of players coming in, higher quality players, more money being spent. And so you can't help but wonder how much of that was Carnell, how much of that is the players coming in. We all know what a high quality player can do in a league like MLS where we have, salary caps and things like that. Bringing in a quality player that can play above his salary is like the secret concoction, right? The secret recipe.
By the way, you were mentioning about a lot of players that have come to St. Louis. There's one player in particular that comes to mind that connects our two clubs, and that is the amazing Johnny Nelson. I
Yeah.
remember when he came over, I contacted Matt, and he gave us like the deets on him. And at when we first heard about Johnny Nelson coming over to the Galaxy, it was like, okay, it's a depth piece. It's somebody who you could get some serviceable minutes from, and he's one of those like blue collar guys. He clocks in, he does his job, he works hard, he no frills, does what he has to do, and he has earned the respect of Galaxy fans. Like when he comes in, you already know you're gonna get somebody who's just gonna do his job, no matter what.
Mhm.
And you won't hear many Galaxy fans say anything negative about him. So hey, thank you very much, St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm glad you're happy with him. Honestly, we went through so many fullbacks, and Bradley Carnell was a fullback, and so that's one of those weird things that I'll just be honest. Like that's one of the rumors. Who knows if it's true? That there were a lot of problems with players and guys not getting along with the coach, or the coach wanting to shut players out even though they have talent, not able to get them, like rally them to the cause, just like shutting them out once they've made too many mistakes. And so, um, you know, we've lost, I think, like 5-6 fullbacks on this team in 2 years. You know what I mean? I mean, way too many. And Johnny was the first to go. And so it just, there's several I look back on. I'm like, maybe they didn't need to go. Maybe we could have worked with them. And who knows with John that maybe that could have worked out. But I'm glad you guys are loving on him because he empties the tank. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I know that you guys are having a. Sorry, my son is home. You can
Love
probably
it.
hear him. But yeah, I know that the season has been pretty difficult. Were there any hopes that maybe you guys get something out of the League's Cup going into it?
Yeah, well, I think we did in a way. Bringing in the new players, I think there were like 7 players if you count some of the call ups that were brought into the first team under contracts this secondary window, MLS window, transfer window. And I think the goal for Leagues Cup was to like get players healthy and implement the new players, right? And so did we want to make a run in Leagues Cup? I would say the fans very much wanted it. I think, me personally, I thought it'd be really nice to make a run. I think my main goal was to make sure these players looked cohesive by the end of the League's Cup, and or at least we saw improvement in the attacking half. And I think if that was the goal, we've seen it, right? I don't know about fully integrated and they all know where everyone's going to be on the pitch at any given moment. Like we've only had 5 games or so. But I do think we saw the rest. We saw improvements in all areas, and we saw that these guys can come in and play the system as it is, and then, add to it on top of that. So that was my goal. Could we have made a run? Would have been nice to go further, but dude, we got Club America in the group stage, which part of that is because we didn't get first in our group. So, it's our own fault. But, we were ahead of Club America for a lot of that game, and got destroyed at the end. So, that Liga MX MLS conversation is an interesting one. And so Club America took care of business, even though they were down for part of that game. But I think a lot of the pundits and the fans of Leagues Cup were on high alert for a while. I think we gave them a scare. I think we gave them a run for their money to some degree. But their quality shown. But the fact that we gave them so much trouble, to me, was a really good sign. And to go out of Leagues Cup against Club America and lead most of the game, that's a good feeling, and I'm okay with that.
I guess we can safely say that you guys softened them up for Colorado.
Yeah, maybe. Colorado showed us up earlier this season. I think they're legit, personally. I don't know what you think. What do you think about Colorado?
No, I mean, it's something that we discussed with Matt Pollard, our good friend, holding the Highline podcast.
Absolutely.
Before, I think Colorado, you can't sleep on Colorado. A lot of people are dismissing them because maybe they don't have like the star power of, let's say, LAFC, Inter Miami. When you're talking about contenders for MLS Cup, right? Or even LA Galaxy as well. I know a lot of Galaxy fans are happy with what their team is now, but nobody expected them, realistically speaking, nobody expected the team to be where it is right now at this point of the season, at way back in April. But yeah, Colorado is somebody you can't dismiss because they might not be in the run for the supporter shield, but they can still make some noise once they get into the playoffs. And it's something that we've discussed before with Matt. Now, one thing we noticed on our side is that our guys came out pretty rusty out of the League's Cup. It's something I've heard echoed elsewhere. I heard it on Scarves and Spikes. They're talking about how they looked rusty coming out of League's Cup. I heard it from the Charlotte podcast as well. They're talking about how they look real rusty against New York. So I guess it's just a thing, right? Unless you're a Columbus Crew and you're making these deep runs into these tournaments, right? I mean, they're a well-oiled machine, though. That's like, I don't know, they're kind of scary at this point. But for the rest of us who, we were there, and Galaxy, got through the group stage. They made it. They did what they had to do, and then they lost to Seattle, and that's fine. There's a lot of players that needed the rest and needed to get healthy. But when you look back, it was that was a little longer than it should have been. It was kind of like a mini off season, right? And so it showed. For us, it showed against Atlanta. We looked kind of rusty. Didn't lack that sharpness, and I was wondering if that was the case with St. Louis, because you get that 1 week, right? That mulligan, like okay, we were all rusty. Now you got to focus on this next match. What are we to expect from St. Louis heading into this next match?
Well, I don't think we're rusty because, we played Portland and ended up being a 5-4 loss. Just ridiculous game, dude. Held the lead for the entire game until the very end, where they drew it, and then they scored in I think 90 plus 4 or something like that. And so they're scoring goals, clearly, right? 4 goals is very good, especially compared to what's been happening this season. But solidity in the back line has been a problem. We've got this guy, Nielsen, is our Swedish center back who came from Bundesliga, has played 24 games in 2 seasons. He's been injured most of the time. And we've been relying on Tim Parker to be the steady one. He hasn't been terribly injured. And then Kyle Hebert has been gone with Canada for Copa America, but he's back now. But we traded Tim Parker to New England for Henry Kessler, who I love. I think he's a really good player. But when you give up 4 goals, now Portland is, I think they're first in the league in scoring, but still, I think if we're rusty, it's the defense hasn't come together yet. That was Henry Kessler's first game. Hebert's only been in a few games since Copa America. We have a new left back coming in, and we've been using a left back from MLS Next Pro who played with the Red Bulls previously, shortly. So it's been a patchwork back line that I think will probably solidify in 3 to 4 weeks when it no longer matters. You know what I mean? So I would say not rusty. I think LA Galaxy maybe should be afraid of our attack, even though the stats don't show that for the season. But, a lot of opportunities to score goals against us if it looks anything like last week.
Sorry. One of the topics that always comes up whenever we do these match previews is how good is your team? How good is your team on set pieces? Because it seems to be something that LA Galaxy has struggled with for most of the season. I would say it was real thorn in the side of the club at the beginning. They seem to have figured things out, and then like right before Leagues Cup and even into Leagues Cup they came back with a vengeance. And so I'm just curious to know how is St. Louis on set pieces. You think that they could prove to be a threat to the LA Galaxy in that respect?
Yes. There was a set piece goal last week. Yeah. Now we did lose Tim Parker, who was kind of one of our better goal scorers on that. But I want to say we got 2 last week, actually. At least one was scored on a cross, and I thought it was a corner from Simon Betcher. And then another one was like definitely a weird set piece where we sent it kind of toward the back of the box, and Toykert scored on a one-time shot to the goal. So yes, I would say yes. It's going to be tricky. There's going to be physicality, and I think St. Louis relies on that physicality against certain teams. Now, I've liked you guys a little bit better, even though the quality hasn't been there exactly. I've enjoyed watching the practicality that Vanny's brought you guys. So I'm a little surprised you're bad on set pieces, because that doesn't seem like a Greg Vanny kind of quality to me. But what do you think?
Yeah, it is something interesting because LA Galaxy has been able to put together a pretty deep core on defense. Like we were mentioning, we have guys that are young, like Jalen Neal, like I'm trying to think. Sorry, like Emiro Garces, who just joined the club recently, and also you have veterans like Miki. I'm sorry, like Maya Yoshida and Martin Cáceres at center back, and then on the wings you have Julian Aude, who's pretty young himself, Miki Yamane, and of course the man himself, Johnny Nelson. But and then you think to yourself, well, what the heck's going on, right? Well, when you look at the club overall, though, right? Besides the center backs, everyone else, if we don't have a lot of big players.
Yeah.
So there've been times when on set pieces, it's sad to say, like Jalen Neal, who we love very much, we see him, he gets dunked on. I mean, that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Or even Maya Yoshida, the venerable captain, he gets up and he feels contact and he ends up on the ground, and then boom, goal, right, for the other team. And that's been a topic of frustration.
Yeah.
So that's something, and I really hope that they keep working on it, because if they can figure that out, I think Galaxy is going to be a bigger threat heading towards the end of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned all the qualities of Johnny Nelson, and I would say like he is the mold of a St. Louis City player. You know what I mean? And so when you get to something like set pieces, now I mean, if we're talking about pure attack, ball skills, maybe you start looking at the Galaxy and you're like, holy cow, this is going to be a tough game. You speed, my goodness, you guys are impressive. All I can think about is how badly that went. Once you got your boy in there, Pencil, yeah, sorry. And I mean, that was a scary game for us. It was terrible. Very much an eye opener. But if you get 10, 9, 8, even Johnny Nelson types in a box and you kick a ball in there, I mean, that's you think about how much that benefits someone like St. Louis City. You know what I mean? So,
well, let's start getting into the game itself. You mentioned you had a player that came over from the Bundesliga. We just got one too.
hey, I'm glad we're not the only ones. We're starting to only get our players from a small part of Europe.
Yeah, he's a very very quiet player from a small Bundesliga team. A fella named Marco Reus, right?
Oh man, we got to
Have you
talk
heard of
about
him?
this, don't we? Yeah, I heard there were some rumors about him recently that I heard a lot about, and then I heard some rumors about another place. One of those two rumors ended up being true.
Yeah, no, what an impact he had on the team and this game in particular. Like I said, um, we discussed this on Sunday on our show. Was that the team looked sluggish? They just looked like they weren't all there.
Hmm.
Not everybody. I mean, Ricky Puig was out there doing his thing. Like I said, and Johnny Nelson was working hard. Some other players were putting forth good performances, but there's something that was just lacking. And uh, Marco Roche came into the game, and he was such a calming presence to him. It's such a calming attitude that it was what the club needed. And he got an assist, and then he got his goal. What a way to
Mm-hmm.
make his debut! What an impact in just like such a limited amount of play. He ended up being one of the players of the week. What you couldn't ask for anything more. A lot of people will say like, what an amazing debut, right? It's only topped by Zlatan's debut, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
Oh my gosh.
now we're looking forward to seeing what he's going to do as the season progresses, what his role is going to be, if he's going to continue coming off the bench, or if he's going to get some minutes at the beginning of games.
Yeah.
It's something to look forward to.
I wanted
And
to ask you about him if you
yes,
don't mind. I
go
think
ahead.
that's been the number one question on my mind is it looks like maybe he came in for Fagundes, but I think when we saw Royce was coming to you guys, he had such a good roster already. I was like, well, where is he going to play? It's not like they're going to move Puig over or they're going to have 2 10s, or maybe they could have. But what position did he look like he was playing in those 30 minutes or so?
Um, Galaxy likes to attack a lot from the right side.
Okay.
I think he was kind of fading over to that middle. I mean, to that side. I want to say he was kind of like a cam, although Galaxy hasn't really had a cam. Um, I don't know. It's something that we discussed also as well. Is like his flexibility. One of the things I love about the Galaxy attack right now is that it's very fluid.
Hmm.
Like I said, they mostly attack down that right side, but they will also, if they catch you napping, they'll just go strike up the middle. And one of the things that Marco Reus will afford you is that flexibility, that fluidity that has really helped this club, because for the longest time it was give the ball to Puig,
Hmm.
uh, please make one of your amazing passes that will inevitably lead to a goal. Oh no, look, a turnover. Oh my God, Ricky, damn it.
Yeah.
But now Marco Royce is in there. And so if the two of them can develop some kind of synergy, oh my goodness, it's going to be lights out for us, hopefully. But it's something that it's going to be fun to see in the next few weeks as the season winds down. Um, let's see. Can you guys hear me okay? I keep seeing comments that you guys can't hear me. Just want to make sure. Um, anyway, yeah, Marco Roche came in. Let's get into like the rest of the game here. Okay. Uh, St. Louis is fairly new club. LA Galaxy have only played them, I think 3 times. I want to say. I'll tell you right now because I have the stats up. Yeah, Galaxy and St. Louis have only played 3 times. Interestingly enough, 3 draws. They're even. First time it was a 1-1 draw, then followed by a 2-2 draw, followed by earlier this season a 3-3 draw. So what are we expecting now, Phil? A 4-4 draw?
you know, it. Gosh, I don't even know, man. What do you think? I don't even know if I want to venture a guess. I guess if you guys are rusty and you can score a lot of goals, you got Royce on top of that. We should score more than usual, but give up more. Maybe a draw sounds right again, doesn't it? Maybe a 4-4
Well, I mean,
draw.
before we give it the actual position, let's put a pin on that one
Yeah,
real
sure.
quick, and let's just bring up the player availability because for
Mm.
LA Galaxy, one of the things that has affected this team recently is the fact that Dejan Jovalic has been missing. So at the beginning, it was like, how is a team going to be able to respond? How are they going to be able to score goals? Well, they've been using everybody pretty much. That's one of the things that I said about the club, was that fluidity, that dynamicism that they have, that they've developed, and that's helped the club being able to figure out how to score goals.
Hmm.
One of the things that's incredible is that you have a dedicated forward in a uh, Miguel Berry, and he's not even starting. They bring
I
him in
know.
like at the end of games, or like if they absolutely need something to throw out there, and that's what he's been doing. But the Galaxy's still been able to figure out ways to score goals. Um, from last we heard, Dejan Joveljic was very, very close to starting. We don't have like the latest availability report because I think that comes out tomorrow, but which is tomorrow's Thursday. So Joveljic should be there. Also, I think Emiro Garces, who's one of our center backs, he should be available as well.
Hmm.
Julian Aude, who Johnny Nelson has been doing a great job of stepping in for him. He's still dealing with a groin issue. He might be missing one more week. But then the argument comes up, and you'll hear a lot of Galaxy fans already talk about it. Julian Alde, like, yeah, he's young, he's good, he's got a lot of promise, but Johnny Nelson has been doing such a great job. Should he remain the starter once Alde is available?
Hmm.
It's a good problem to have if you're Greg Vanney, right? Because you got two great players that you can just switch around. What about for St. Louis? What can you tell us? Like, is anybody going to be missing? Yeah, you guys have any surprise injuries like last time?
No, thank goodness. Nilsson, that center back, looks like he's going to be out. It looks like he got another knock. So no good news there. He's our best center back, or the highest profile center back that we have. But looks like Giannis Horn is available to start. He came in as a sub. That was his first game with St. Louis. So he's that new German left back that we got. Looks like Alm and Klaus are the two that have been injured that we think are coming back soon. And Alm is a really speedy winger with decent vision. He's like our counterattacking guy, the best counterattacking guy that we have, I think, on the wing. And then Joao Klaus is our big, Brazilian. He's a big Brazilian striker. He's actually good with his feet, but he kind of runs real goofy. He was great last year. He's had a tough year this year, and I think it's because he's had to make up for the lack of playmaking in St. Louis. So he's been trying to pull double duty a bit as a 9 and a playmaker. Well, now we have plenty of playmaking. He will probably come in as a sub for the first time in months in this game coming up. And I'm really excited to see him just be a 9 and hopefully really use the new players, the new left wing playmaker we have in Hartle. We have a new 9.5, 10 in Teukert, kind of like a Thomas Mueller kind of guy. And if we free him up to just be himself and score goals, I'm excited to see what that looks like. And I think he'll sub for the first time in this one. So everyone else is out for the season, and it's not someone you would have been worried about anyway. Those are the ones to look at. Klaus, Alm, and then Horn coming in perhaps to start at left back as a new player.
Okay. Now, as far as disciplinary report, this is something that Galaxy fans should definitely pay attention to, because once again, Ricky Puig is one yellow card away from being suspended or receiving a fine. Same with Edwin Cerrillo, but not to say that one was more important than the other, but God forbid one of these guys just decides to get into an argument with this ref. And I'll tell you about this ref right now, because my goodness, I looked at the stats and oh my God. Ricky Puig, please just keep your hands to yourself and like now don't speak up, because if Ricky Puig gets another yellow, guess what? He misses the next game. And who's the next game? LAFC, El Tráfico. Oh my goodness. Do we really want Ricky Puig to miss the next El Tráfico? No. So let's get into this ref, because my goodness, this guy is an interesting fella. His name is Joe Dickerson. Joe Dickerson has been refereeing in MLS since 2017. He has done 119 regular season matches, 13 in total with the LA Galaxy, yielding 7 wins, 4 draws, and 2 losses, including 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses on the road. Now, with St. Louis, He's only done 4 matches. That in total, 1 win, no draws, 3 losses. And at home, St. Louis has a record of 1 win, no draws, and 1 loss with Dickerson on the whistle. Now, here's where it gets fun. It gets really, really fun, right? Because this guy, he loves to throw out yellows. In 11 matches, he has 56 yellows for an average of 5.09. Oh my goodness. And then we just talked about how Ricky Puig is on the verge of getting another yellow that might have him miss the next match. No, thank you. In fact, in his last 2 matches, Dickerson has handed out 14 yellow cards. That's 5 in the game between Orlando and New York City, and 9 in the match between Portland and RSL. Damn. What do you think, Phil?
I think he's got his work cut out for him. Sometimes it sucks that El Tráfico is the next one. So it's something I think as a St. Louis City fan, I hope they poke and prod, a little bit, physicality on a guy like that. If we can get him flustered and make him make a mistake or force him to run back and pull someone down on a counterattack, that's something I would go for. But boy, it's going to be hard not to get a yellow against that guy. I love looking at how many yellows they give out, and it's a good shout that this guy gives a lot out. And I don't know. What do you think? I don't think he's going to make it personally. I would put like what do you think? 75% chance he gets a yellow in this one.
Well, I'm looking at the chat, and they're saying that Ricky is missing this next game. So did I miss something? Did he get a yellow versus? I know I was having a few drinks in the stadium.
Or are they holding him out? Oh, he's suspended versus St. Louis. Adrian says. Interesting.
Well, there you go. It happened.
Sorry, guys. I didn't realize that. Oh yeah, he got a yellow against the last game.
Yay! There you go. He gets the reset.
Well, there's the next question then. Do we just see Royce play the 10 role? Start. Surely, yeah.
Yeah, I could see him starting, or I could see him still coming off the bench. Because Galaxy, like I said, they have a pretty deep midfield. I think one of those guys in the midfield could probably run things.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Edwin Cerrillo. He's somebody who can go in there and play off of Diego Fagundes, and it's something that definitely it's a good thing to have for the Galaxy. Now you get that Ricky Puig out, right? That game where he's missing out of that game, and then he gets the rest against LAFC. We get to see LA Galaxy work that offense against St. Louis with no Puig. And I know, Phil, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, this would be easier for us, right? Well, let me tell you, when Ricky Puig was out, LA Galaxy offense looked better.
That's funny.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, a lot of people will get mad at me, like, how dare you talk about Puig in that way? But you know what? When he was out, the team found ways to score goals, move the ball around a lot more, because it wasn't just focused on getting the ball to him. It was just spreading the ball around. This is when Gabriel Peck really started to shine, because he was going on these runs where he would get the ball and through, passes. And same with Painter, who at one point he looked like he was kind of fatigued. And then during that time when Ricky was out, that's when Painter caught fire again. So maybe we might get to see that in this upcoming match. And see, once again, people are saying, yep, Royce isn't going to go the full 90, but he'll get his minutes, and we'll get to see him, go down and hang out in St. Louis. Maybe go down to the Anheuser-Busch brewery and, give it his blessing, right?
Why not? Yeah. I mean, there's lots of German style beers around for everybody to have. In that last game, I think he bought the entire supporter section beers at the end of the game. Did you see that? I think it's a tradition of some sort to buy the yellow wall or whatever beers. It's pretty cool.
What's this?
It's a good way to go out. Royce, when in his last game, he bought either the whole yellow wall or the entire stadium. I don't remember what it was. He bought everybody beers. So it's pretty cool.
Man, if he tries that at our stadium, he's gonna end up broke. like nothing like a $20 beer at the stadium, right?
Oh, fair, yeah, right. Yeah, the Germans are actually good at keeping their prices down for everybody. It's not an American quality at all, but I would bet that Royce plays the 10. He played. I'm a big Dortmund fan, and so I think if he'll play centrally, like kind of a similar role to Puig, because he can do that. It's very natural for him. He can play on the wing too, but he ends up coming inside and looking like a 10 half the time anyway. So, yeah, that's my bet from someone who may not know as well as you guys. But
So, what can you tell us about Berkey right now? Because he's been one of the pillars of this team,
oh yeah,
and LA Galaxy has struggled against some of the higher, more elite goalkeepers in the league, and you can't go and talk about St. Louis without talking about Berkey, who's one of your DPS, right?
agree. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this Portland game being 5-4, and it could have easily been 7 or 8-4, and so I would say Berkey makes at least 2 incredible saves per game, and sometimes it gets up to like 6. And then on top of that, the regular saves, the ones that are just a little bit better than normal. It's crazy what he's able to do. His professionalism, his high expectations, I think, really helped us last season. I think it was a bit of we aligned the planets with the new season. The stadium gets really crazy. The vibe of all these new fans, almost everyone stood the whole game last season. No matter what seat they were in, it was just something special. The players seemed to give 110% every single game. And so, I think Berkey was a big part of that. He has high expectations. He yells at guys that don't hold their position and do well. And he's a big, massive leader. And then on top of that, man, I cannot believe I'm doing this. But back in the 90s, the Cardinals weren't that good. But, they preached defense, right? Making sure that the fielding was perfect, no mistakes. And, Whitey Herzog was the coach back then. And he said, every run we stop is as good as scoring a run, right? It's as good as a home run. And so they were really big on that. And if you think of Berkey in that light, that if he's stopping 1 or 2 goals per game, more than the average, MLS goalkeeper, I mean, think about what that's adding on a season long, basis. It's insane. If that was a striker, you'd be incredulous that he's scoring that often in MLS. And I truly think he's helping us to that degree, in all ways, including leadership and things like that. So we're lucky to have him. I hope he stays until he retires. And man, if he stays here and coaches, I'd be even happier.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to rephrase the statement that defense is, the first line of offense, I guess you could say, because you're taking goals away from their team, and that helps you in goal differential. Right?
Yeah.
So let's get into predictions. We talked about the ref. He likes to throw out a lot of yellows. And I know St. Louis and Galaxy, when they play each other, some of those games have gotten kind of testy.
Yeah.
So what do you say, Phil? Since you're our guest, you get first shot.
I really enjoy, since, like I said, you said you guys are rusty. St. Louis's defense does not have it together. You got Royce coming in. I think since we've had a 1-1 draw, a 2-2 draw, a 3-3 draw, I'm going to go ahead and say 4-4 draw. And I think that we're going to have 7 yellow cards. How's that? What do you think?
Damn. The last match between these two teams was pretty dramatic. There's a lot of stuff that went on in this game. I remember I was at a wedding in San Diego with my wife. She was one of the bridesmaids. And I remember trying to catch highlights here and there. And I remember the last 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of the game was insane. McCarthy I think he got a red card, right? Ricky Puig gave up a goal. I mean, and then Mayoshida had to bail the team out at the very end. So I feel like the LA Galaxy team that we are seeing right now is worlds better than they were back then. And I think that they're feeling the pressure to maintain that hold on the West. It's like my camera froze. And they're looking to maintain that hold on the West, and I think that that's going to propel them. Like I said, I think the Galaxy offense is a little bit more fluid without Ricky Puig. So I don't, I wouldn't be surprised if Galaxy gets this as a 2-1 win. Oh, somebody just said the same thing. 2-1 win on the road. And sorry, St. Louis, but we enjoy it. We enjoy the barbecue, but hey, Galaxy has to maintain that pace. And And if we have any other questions, anybody else have anything else to say? Do you have any questions on your end, Phil?
I did have a question, and now I'm blanking on it. I guess one thing I was really interested in is I will, like I said before, I will never forget Paintsel coming in that last game and just burning our left back over and over, and the game plan just didn't take into consideration Paintsel's speed and effectiveness. And so I see that he's playing striker right now out of necessity based on what you said. Um, so I guess with this new left back coming in that we have from Germany, I think he maybe starts. And I also honestly wonder if they were like, hey, we really want you to play against the Galaxy. We got this guy Paintsel that you're going to have to guard, and we're going to have to be careful and give you special instructions. So I guess a couple things. Like, do you think Paintsel will play the 9 position as a striker? Do you think if Joveljic is back, perhaps he plays on the wing a little bit? And do you think he's more effective there, or do you think he's been really good as a striker?
Well, that's the thing. I think that a lot of that has to a lot of that weighs on what Joveljic is going to be doing. If he is back, then the Paintsel won't have to worry about being a striker or anything like that. He can just go back to being on the wing and trying to feed Joveljic down in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, we get to see that because I feel like it's kind of you're kind of wasting Paintsel trying to have him go up there and create offense when he's at his best when he's running up and down the wings. And like I said, with Puja, we're gonna probably get a chance to see some of that, the speed of a Gabriel Peck and Paintsel, and seeing how they overload that right side and try to work off each other and create some chaos in the 18.
I like it.
Oh, there is a question in the chat um, from the one and only Rocio. She asked, any recommendations for those of us going to St. Louis? There's some Galaxy fans that are going to be traveling to the away match.
That's awesome.
Places where they could have some yummy food, some drinks before and after the game. What do you say, Phil?
So plan ahead, right? The stadium, they went to great pains to make sure that our stadium has it's all local restaurants in there. It's not like the U.S. Foods truck pulled in, backed up, and they just threw a bunch of nachos and hot dogs inside. Like every restaurant, every food vendor inside that stadium is a restaurant, a local restaurant. So before you go, like find what kind of food you want to eat, and whatever you try there, almost everything is delicious. And some of it can be ordered through the app. So I know most apps are redundant and terrible in stadiums. Ours is actually good because you can pre-order your food. So find whatever style of food you want, and you can pre-order half of them. Even if you wait in line, like you'll be fine. But yeah, like St. Louis is like, we're proud of our food. Our podcast is called Flyover Footy because it's like a tongue-in-cheek, like flyover state. A lot of people don't think much about St. Louis, and I totally get that. But I think we pride ourselves on surprising everybody with our food, with our culinary offerings. And so check out all the restaurants we have. Find a really good one inside the stadium and outside the stadium, and I think you'll be pretty happy. The restaurants are where it's at. And if you like barbecue, Pappy's has the best ribs. There's a place called Salt and Smoke that has the best brisket. Also, Sugar Fire has pretty good brisket as well. So yeah, those are the top 3 I would recommend.
Man, I have not eaten since like noon, and I'm like
Oh
foaming
boy.
at the mouth now. Thanks,
It's
dude.
good.
Like I'm
Yeah.
really hungry for some barbecue now. I did live in Kansas, like in 1999, and I remember, little innocent Edgar here. I went there. I had no idea what I was getting into, and they were so proud of the barbecue out there. And I remember all the different people in the newspaper where I was working were taking me to the different barbecue places around town. And they kept asking me which one I liked the best. And I didn't want to say because I didn't want to offend anybody. But and then my wife, she's from North Carolina, so through her, I was introduced to North Carolina barbecue, which is a whole
Yeah.
different thing, right?
Totally different.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I've been lucky to have some delicious barbecue, but I have not been to St. Louis yet. The closest, I mean, the only time I've been to Missouri was in Kansas City, which doesn't really count, right? I got to go to St. Louis. I got to get me some of that St. Louis barbecue, um, and see what it's all about. By the way, I keep bringing it up whenever we talk to our friends that cover Kansas City, I really hope you guys stick with that name. The barbecue.
Good.
I've heard that there's the women's teams in the WSL I think use it, right? NWSL, like they use a barbecue, but or somewhere along the line. But I would love to see if MLS adopts that, because like we were telling our friend Cavicho and our friend Jimmy Mack from No Other Pod, um, just to have before the game, some smoke masters go out there, one guy from Kansas City, one guy from
Oh
St.
my
Louis,
gosh.
and
Yes.
just have a battle of like, who has the best barbecue, and everybody can have a good time just enjoying that.
Oh yeah. In that scenario, like everybody wins, right? You get to try a
Yeah.
little bit of both. My dad's from KC, so like I hear you, man. Like I grew up with KC barbecue. St. Louis has really come on in the last 5, 10, no, probably 20 years. And so it's you can't lose, right? You can get barbecue from both places. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
There's another question here from Logan Jones. He asks, "Were you mad that Marco chose the LA Galaxy, because one of the teams he was rumored to was St. Louis City?"
Oh man, I didn't know that. Oh, Marco Royce. Sorry, I
Yes.
heard you wrong. Was I upset? No. Was I surprised? No. I think the only chance we stood was, I was shocked we got Berkey. I'm still in shock that we were able to get someone like that. And then he seems happy here. He really does. I don't think it's fake. Like I think he really enjoys it here. And I think Germans from a certain part of Germany find St. Louis great. You know what I mean? But I mean, Royce, he's on another level, and I think he wanted something special coming here. And I loved hearing about, was it Royce who said it's like a family atmosphere? No, it wasn't Royce.
That
So
was Giroud.
it was Giroud. So never mind that. But yeah, so never mind that. But I mean,
It's still a family atmosphere.
well, I hope so. That's great to hear. But, I think you wanted the LA experience. I totally get that. And anyone that comes to St. Louis, I'll always be surprised if they choose us over anyone. You know what I mean? So, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy that Royce is in the league, right? It's going to be a better league because of it. And honestly, money is precious in St. Louis. And so we got really practical guys that really fit our system. And I wonder if Royce would have been as effective in the long run for the dollar amount. You know what I mean? We just got to be careful with our money. So I'm glad you guys are spending the money, taking more of the risk, and we're getting our under the radar guys, and we'll see who comes out on top. And it could be either one. I'll enjoy the game no matter what. But like it's definitely a different kind of a build, right? Different kind of roster build.
Piggybacking off the question about the recommendations, what should traveling Galaxy fans expect at the stadium with in regards to the St. Louis fans, the stadium itself, the visiting section? What's that all? What's that all like?
The visiting section is, up in the upper corner in the sun, although it's a midday game, so actually it won't really matter. But yeah, I mean, you get your own section up in the corner. But I think St. Louis fans are friendly. I know every time I see someone in a jersey of the visiting team, I'm like, hey, thanks for coming. I hope you had a good time. Everyone treating you well, and I think that's the case in almost, every time. So, we're St. Louisans tend to be pretty friendly, and it definitely doesn't get violent or angry in the stands that I've heard of. Now, we've only been around 2 years, so who knows? But yeah, I think you'll have a good experience. The stadium's new, it's beautiful. I think they did a great job. I don't think there's a bad seat in the stadium. Everyone can see the field really well. No weird spots. It's loud. You'll expect some people get upset about this, but in a lot of the sections still stand the whole game. So like wear good shoes, like prepare to have to stand. Maybe your kid's got to stand on the seat or in your arms or something, or find a hole between people. That will become problematic here and there. But for the most part, visiting teams are standing a lot of the time anyway. So I don't really think it's been a problem. It's been more a problem with the locals, but yeah, I think it'll be a fun environment. This is the first time, because we did that Leagues Cup boycott, right? So the stadium's been empty for these new players. It's been bad. And so I think St. Louisans are excited to have a full stadium for the first time in a month and a half or so. And I think we're excited to cheer really loud for those new players that we have, the 7 new players. I think it's going to be fun.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to an entertaining game. I always say that. Hopefully, we don't get any injuries or anything like that for either side. And we could talk about what an entertaining Galaxy win we had after this. But hey, Phill, thank you so much for coming on to join us. In the future, maybe we can get you and Matt at the same time so we get that dynamic going right there. Can you tell LA Galaxy fans where they could find you on Twitter or on Instagram or any other socials, and about Flyover Footy as well?
Yeah, Flyover Footy. We cover all the St. Louis soccer events, mainly, of course, St. Louis City. My name's Phill Grooms, 2 L's, 2 O's on that Twitter handle. You can check me out, but Matt's the one you want to watch. I mean, he puts a lot on Twitter, the best information. I just give you guys some opinions here and there and some thoughts, but Matt Baker is just Matt Baker, the most normal white guy name, Midwest name ever. He spells just like it sounds on Twitter.
Big Bird
Matt
Baker.
STL. Yeah, Big Bird. There you go. Thanks for having me on, though, guys. This has been fun. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barbecue Brisket Grooms. We're looking forward to seeing you next time. Guys, if you don't know, you can find me on Twitter. Instagram is Edgar Nags, or NA_GS on Twitter. Edgar Nags on Instagram. Bryant's been here though. Oh, well, Bryant is there. You can find him at Bryant Nags on Instagram, Twitter, all the socials. Well, from everybody here at News Across the Galaxy, from Phill, Flyover Footy, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to a great game, and we'll catch you on Sunday. As always, keep on nagging. In my case, baby, Wu-Tang for life. Let's go.
Oh, baby.